Today we will continue looking at ratios. Please copy down the standard benchmark indicator on a clean page in your math notebook. The student will describe and compare two sets of data using ratios and will use appropriate notation such as A to B in word form, and A to B using the colon. Exploring equal ratios. To find equal ratios, you show the ratios as fractions. Write the fractions in their simplest form. If they match, they are equal ratios. So, their example question here is, are 2/4, 4/8, 8/16, and 16/32 equal ratios? Well, they took each fraction and they simplified it down to its simplest form, which gets us 1/2 for all four ratios. So they are equal because all of them can be simplified down to 1/2. For number 1, are 2/6, 4/12, 6/18, and 18/24 equal ratios? How do you know? So the first thing we're going to do is simplify all four of the fractions to the simplest form. So for the first one, 2/6, we're going to divide by 2, so we get 1/3. Next, we look at 4/12. We can divide the numerator and the denominator by 4, which also simplifies down to 1/3. Third fraction, 6/18, we can divide the numerator and the denominator by 6, so that also simplifies to 1/3. And finally, we have 8/24. We can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 8, which again gets us 1/3. So yes, they're equal ratios because they all simplify to 1/3. So for the following problems, each ratio on the left is matched by 4 ratios on the right. One of the ratios on the right is not equal to the one on the left. Find the one that is not equal and write it on the line. So, number 2, we have 2/3. We need to check each of the 4 ratios to see if they simplify to that. We start with 4/6. If you divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, it does simplify to 2/3. So we're going to cross that one out. 8/12. If you divide the numerator and the denominator by 4, that's going to simplify to 2/3. Next, we've got 3/6. That will simplify to 1/2. So that could be our answer, but we need to check the last one just to be sure. And then 10/15, if we divide by 5, the numerator and the denominator, we get 2/3. So our ratio that is not equal is 3/6. For number 3, we have 1/5. So if we start with 3/15, we divide the numerator and the denominator by 3, we get 1/5. So we're going to cross that one off. If we simplify 5/15, we divide the numerator and the denominator by 5, we get 1/3. So that one is not equal. For 2/10, if we divide by 2, the top and the bottom, we get 1/5. And finally, for 6/30, if we divide the numerator and the denominator by 6, we get 1/5 as well. So our answer is 5/15. For 4, we need to simplify to 1/4. So we start with 9/27. We divide those both by 9, and we get 1/3, not 1/4. Then we check the other 3 just to make sure we did our math correctly. We have 9/36. We divide both by 9, we will get 1/4. 7/28. If we divide both by 7, we will get 1/4. And 6/24. If we divide by 6, numerator and the denominator, we get 1/4. So we know our answer, the one that doesn't match, is 9/27. For 5, we need to simplify to 3/4. So we start with our first fraction, 75/100. If we divide both by 25, we get 3/4. For 9/12, if we divide both by 3, we will get 3/4. For 6/8, if we divide both by 2, we will get 3/4. And for the last one, we have 8/16. If we divide both by 8, we get 1/2, not 3/4. So 8/16 is our answer. For 6, we need to simplify to 2/5. So for 6/15, we divide by 3, so we get 2/5 there. For 8/20, we're going to divide by 4, and that gets us 2/5. For 5/25, we're going to divide by 5, which gets us 1/5, not 2/5. And for 12/30, we're going to divide by 6, and that also gets us 2/5. So our answer for the one that does not match is 5/25. For 7, we need to simplify to 1/3. So 3/7 can't simplify any further. It is in simplest form. But we do need to check the other 3 fractions just to make sure. So for 3/9, we can divide by 3 on the top and the bottom, and that gets us 1/3. For 4/12, we can divide by 4 on the numerator and the denominator, and that gets us 1/3. For 5/15, we can divide by 5 on the top and the bottom, and that gets us 1/3. So our answer for the fraction that does not match is 3/7. Finally, for number 8, we need to divide to simplify down to 3/8. So we have 9/24. If we divide both by 3, we will get 3/8. For 6/16, if we divide both by 2, we will also get 3/8. For 12/32, if we divide by 4, we will get 3/8. And then we have 21/40, and since they do not share any common factors, it is in simplest form, which means that is our fraction that does not match. All right, next, once you have a series of equal ratios, what you can do is graph them as ordered pairs on a line graph. To do that, we take 3 ratios we have at the bottom, 2/4, 4/8, and 8/16, and we're going to turn those into ordered pairs so we can graph them. The numerator becomes the x-coordinate, so it's always listed first. The denominator becomes the y-coordinate, so it's listed second. So we're going to write these 3 fractions as ordered pairs over here on the left. Now, the next thing we need to do is take a look at our graph and figure out how much space we have so we know what kind of scale we need to count by, what interval we're using. So if we look, the 0 is going to be in the bottom left-hand corner, so let's write that in. And then we're going to count our lines to see how many we have. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. And going up, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have an 8 by 8 grid here. However, we do go up to 16, so we're going to count by 2s on both the x and the y axis. You have to use the same interval on both parts of your graph. Now we can go through and graph our ordered pairs. So for the first one, we're going to go over to the 2 on the horizontal, that's the x-axis, and up to the 4 on the vertical, the y-axis, and put a dot where those two lines intersect. Next, we're going to go over to the 4 on the x-axis, going horizontally, and then the 8 on the y-axis, the vertical. So we're going to go up and we're going to put a point where those two intersect. Next, we're going to graph 8/16. So we're going to go over to the 8 on the horizontal axis and up to the 16 on the vertical. And as you notice, all of our ratios would simplify to 1/2. So it's going to make a straight line because they're all equivalent. Now we can put in one more dot to make it a little easier to connect our line, because the one ordered pair we don't have that fits in here is 6/12, because that would also simplify to 1/2. So go ahead and add that dot as well. Now I want you to take a ruler and draw, starting at the dot that has the 2, 4 dot, all the way up to the top and connect them in a nice straight line. And there you have your ratios graphed as ordered pairs. Please make sure you've copied down all the work and get both pieces of paper glued in your math notebook.